A country that has no control over its borders is not a country. Yes, a country that has no control whatsoever over its borders, who comes in, who comes out, is not a country. It's something else. It's, a county, a dominion, province possibly, but it's not a country. No. One of the central tenets of being considered, in my opinion, an actual real-life country is that you have borders and you are able to protect them, decide who comes in, decide who does not come in. And we don't have that anymore. We gave that up. We fought for over 700 years. That's a long, long time. We fought to have our own borders and to be able to control our own borders and to be able to make our own laws and to be able to decide what kind of society we here in Ireland wanted to have and what kind of people we wanted to have living with us and amongst us. And that worked very successfully for the guts of a century. And then our dim-witted politicians decided, no, that's all old-fashioned now.
We want nothing to do with a backward-looking idea of sovereignty.
They were persuaded by people far smarter than them that the best way forward for Ireland would be to abandon everything our ancestors spent centuries fighting for. And that they duly did, as quick as they could possibly do it. And now we have a situation where people are flooding in, some people are leaving, mostly the best and brightest of your native Irish children. They're the ones leaving on a plane, on a jet plane for Australia, and all kinds of people are coming in. Some absolutely very industrious and energised and willing to participate in Irish society. And unfortunately, far too many others who have no interest in doing anything like that or any of the above. And one very, very important cornerstone, as far as I'm concerned, of a functioning country is that when you end up by one means or another with nefarious actors, bad people, criminals, evil individuals who commit crimes against your population, your people, well then you have the right, and every country has the right, and always had the right, at least as far as I'm concerned, to expel said people, if not imprisoning them first, possibly, and then expelling those people. And that was going back to antiquity. You even hear in fairy tales, this, that, or the other was banished from the kingdom for various crimes. In fairy tales, real or imagined, but that's not the point. This is a very, very old, one of the cornerstones of a kingdom, of a country, of a place that had a cohesive group of people in it who were trying to create a society that functioned. Now, we in Ireland here, on paper, do deport people. Yes, we do, technically. Now, if you're living here and if you know anything about Ireland, you will also know that that is a complete and utter sham. It's a farce. It's just play acting. Every now and again, the government will say, oh, look, we sent 31 or 2 people back to Georgia on a jet plane that could probably take 200 people and cost us 10 zillion euros to fund. And all of those 32 people will probably already be back in Ireland the following week. It's an absolute theatrical performance, and I don't think anybody now is buying it. The other key cornerstone to the nouveau Irish deportation system is that we just send people letters. We just say, listen, kindly, if you would be ever so kind to please leave the jurisdiction before a certain date, we'd be really appreciative. That'd be really, really good of you. Spiffing and jolly good show and Queensberry rules and all that horse's ass stuff. Of course, we all know that the people that they're sending these letters to just look at them, if they even look at them, and then chuck them in the bin. And what does the Irish state do about it? Absolutely zero. Zilch. Nothing. We do absolutely nothing. We don't check up on whether they've left. We don't take them to the border. We don't put them on a plane. We just send them a very kind, very benevolent, very virtuous Dear John letter. And then the Irish state, as far as it's concerned, decides that, well, we've done our bit. What more could we possibly do? Now, an ordinary person, an ordinary logical sentient person with a intelligence quotient above room temperature would know, well, listen, that's probably not a great system, because the people you're dealing with there, if somebody is at a point where you actually want to deport them from your jurisdiction, there's probably a very good reason for it. But of course, the Irish state just is playing this never-ending game of see no evil, hear no evil, stick my fingers in my ears and cover my eyes. I don't want to hear or see any of it. And maybe if I ignore it all, the problems will all just magically go away. They'll just evaporate. That never happens in the real world. So here's a little clip from our great and glorious leader, Micheál Martin, just the other day. Compliments of gripped media, Ben Scallon, the man, the myth, the legend. And he's asking our Taoiseach of the day. We do rotate that, so it's a kind of a, I stepped in and you stepped out again. Lanigan's Ball, for any of you who know that song. That's basically how Irish government works. I stepped in and you stepped out again. I stepped out and you stepped in again. All this. So they're rotating it between themselves. Simon Harris, Micheál Martin. Of course, Mary Lou is champing at the bit to try and become the first woman Taoiseach. You might actually get there if they don't get rid of her quick enough, which it seems they want to. But I'd say you'll have to crowbar Mary Lou out with a very big crowbar. Good luck with that, Sinn Féin. So here's Micheál Martin saying why we can't possibly deport anyone the proper way. Couldn't possibly do it. Why? The idea is absolutely ridiculous.
The fact that the state doesn't record whether or not somebody served a deportation order has in fact left the state is a problem, and that the government should be collecting those figures, because recently a parliamentary question to Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan asked him about this and said how many people once given deportation orders leave the state, and he said he wasn't able to provide that because we don't currently collect that information. Is that something that you feel we should be recording?
In terms of a lot of people, when they come to the attention of the authorities, they may voluntarily leave. But I think we will always seek further data in respect of this issue. I know that the Minister will be pursuing further avenues to collate and to get accurate and precise data on that question.
But do you think that we should specifically have exit checks at the border? Because again, according to the Minister, we don't currently have that. And do you think that that's something that...
We don't have exit checks that we normally are under the public, or is it feasible to do so?
Yes, you heard the man. It's not feasible to do so. In other words, we issue deportation orders and the state doesn't check whether they actually have left the state, because according to the Commander-in-Chief, or as I call him, the Waffler-in-Chief, it's not feasible to do so. Well, I have to say that's a load of old tosh. And as a side note, Micheál Martin is a fascinating character. He's the ultimate waffler, spoofer and plamauser. The man can burn up seconds with absolute and utter bunk talk. Let me give you a little... I saw it in this because I watched this guy, and he's not the Commander-in-Chief, he's the Waffler-in-Chief of this nation. Check out this waffle. Listen to this absolute nonsense talk.
But I think we will always seek further data in respect of this issue. I know that the Minister will be pursuing further avenues to collate and to get accurate and precise data on that question.
See what I mean? I know it's a bit of a tangent there, but I saw it in the middle of this because I see it in the middle of every one of his interviews. The man has the ability, Micheál Martin, if it was an Olympic sport, he would be a gold medalist all the time. The ability to talk endlessly and say absolutely nothing. And there I've just showed you a little snapshot. Now watch out for it in his interviews. He burns up seconds with absolute filler. Nothing. It says nothing. You end up after an interview thinking, what did he actually say? And the reason you're thinking that is because he said nothing, but he's talked a lot. Now, going back to this central point that I'm making here, we issue deportation orders here in this country. Now, on rare occasions, we actually put people on a plane and fly them somewhere. Now, they're probably back the next week because we don't have checks for that either. That's all performative art. We have no functioning system. Absolutely none. And if you think we do, I've got a bridge to sell you. So let me show you this very quick tweet. And it illustrates in 10, 20 seconds why what the Taoiseach Micheál Martin is saying there is absolutely ridiculous, ludicrous and nonsensical. Let's just debunk this whole circus show in one tweet. From Suzanne Matthews on the Twitter sphere, quote, I can't wrap my head around the pure lazy incompetence of this statement, quote, not feasible. Here's a process. 1. Deportation issued. 2. Social welfare payments cut off. 3. PPS number deactivated. 4. Migrants can't work. No cash. But they might go back and pretend they've just arrived and start the whole asylum process again. But wait, we have their fingerprints on Eurodac. Sorted. Cross-check the fingerprints of all unvetted, illegal, undocumented migrants. Bravo. Bravo, Suzanne. I couldn't have put it better myself. You see, there are ways to successfully deport people and then make sure they never come back and rip us off again. Of course, the government under Micheál Martin or Simon the T-Boy don't really want to know about that because that's all very awkward and the EU mightn't like us getting a bit shorty with illegal immigrants. So you see, it's not that there's no solution, it's that they don't want to see or hear a solution. The will isn't there, guys. The will isn't there. And if the will isn't there, it ain't going to happen. So, what do you think about that? This could easily be sorted. I think we could all agree it could easily be sorted, but the people at the top running the show, driving the bus, simply don't want to know.